to have it go to be saved on the cloud. But we're almost there. We're not there yet. It's still powering up, and I think we're here.
That's great.
Okay, we're here, and now I'm going to press the record to the cloud. Okay, and we're good.
Great. Thank you so much, Patrice. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call the MAPC MAPC officers meeting for Monday, January 12th, 2026 to order at 9:09 a.m. First up, we're going to call roll. Please come off mute. Sam?
Here.
Imai?
Here.
Jen?
Here.
And Erin? Here. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, first up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from December 1st, 2025. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve with one amendment. The one amendment that I'm asking for a motion on is to include under hiring and staff changes, right before other business, I want to add the sentence, at the conclusion of the discussion, Ms. Cole offered a personal opinion that did not result in further discussion. That way it captures that Anna made a comment, but did not result in further discussion because remember, we went into executive session. So with that, I'm going to ask for a motion for approval.
So moved.
Great. Imai, is there a second?
Second.
Great. Any discussion? Great. Seeing none, roll is required. I'm not doing consent agenda today because there's only 4 of us. Okay. Sam?
Yes.
Imai?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Erin? Aye. Okay. Meeting minutes are approved from December 1st, 2025 as amended. Great. Next up, revenue and pass-through contracts from November and December.
Excellent. I think Patrice is going to put these up. So if we just give her a second, because there's 4 of them.
Making sure that I'm pulling up the correct ones. So we're doing October through November 1st. And please remind me, Erin, are we doing the revenue or the pass-throughs first?
How about your choice?
Let's do the revenue.
All right. Thanks, Patrice.
All right, then let me share my screen. Bear with me.
Great. We can see pass-through. I know you said revenue, but let's do pass-through since we're here for October through November. And maybe, Patrice, we could try and get it all on one screen.
Yeah. I think it needs to be a little smaller, Patrice, because it's there's actually a bench. If you want to make it a little smaller on the screen, Patrice. Or
Sorry
we
about
can
that.
scroll down. That's okay.
Even making it at like 70% opposed to 120 might get it all.
Oh. Patrice, I have it too if you want. Just let me know.
Yes, Lindsay, will you please, as I work out the sizing issue.
Oh, wait, you know what? You need to give me sharing permission, but that should
Okay.
take.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Can folks see this? Is it too small?
Yes.
Is
No,
it too? Okay.
I think we all have our copy of it as
Copy.
well.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So yeah, just putting pretty standard pass through. There are a lot of them. But just scrolling through a number of pass through related to Homeland Security and those are all through municipal collaboration. And then you'll see at the bottom there's a number related to the North Suffolk Health Collaborative, which is the food security portion of that. And that was a number of pass-through dollars to communities for our food security work. And then some miscellaneous for clean energy and land use. And I'm glad to answer any questions.
Yeah. Yeah. If anyone has a question, just speak up and Lizzie can answer,
Okay.
please.
Lizzie, on the line for Weston and Sampson engineers,
Yes.
first one in November.
Mhm.
It's just usually I'm used to seeing these as like municipalities or some other nonprofits and the contractor client pass
Yeah.
through.
Mhm.
What's the difference there that Weston and Sampson is like? How's that working that the firm is getting the pass through money or
So the dollars here, this is like part of like a much larger MVP project that we're doing. And so we're essentially in that like fiduciary space with them. And so it's just like we're the vehicle to hire Weston and Sampson in this space.
okay.
That's the only difference. We saw this before with CPRG, where we got this like big chunk from the federal government,
Okay.
and we were essentially that pass-through entity. It's similar here.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
And just quickly, Lizzie, no, I don't see any with MAPC money. This is all every dollar is going out the door. Is that pretty much?
This is just these are just the pass-through.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So
if it's a partial split, that shows up on
You'll
revenue.
see it on the contract side. There's a
Okay.
few where it'll show like how much we're holding versus how much is passed through. Yeah, so
Oh.
on the revenue side, that's where you see that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Do you guys want me to move on to the next? Okay, I'm just gonna stop sharing. Pull up revenue. All right. Can folks see this? The revenue contracts? Okay, so these are the October to November revenue contracts. And Sam, you can see here on the total amount versus pass-through where some of the dollars are coming in and some of the dollars are going out. A couple of MVP action grants here. Economic feasibility analysis in Weston. You see the big DLTA contract came in this month, and funding for work that we're doing on community health equity from DPH.
Can we, Aaron, is it okay to ask? Just keep going.
No, ask away. Ask away.
I don't want to get us too off the rails here, but how's from big picture, mostly about the federal money, are we?
Nothing else has happened in quite a while on the federal dollars. We did recently, we had to apply for a grant on behalf of CTPS or the MPO, and actually they were awarded a discretionary grant, so dollars are still coming in, but we haven't seen any additional cuts as of yet. We did conclude our CPRG grant, even though they extended it at literally the 11th hour. It was like due on a Tuesday. On Friday, they were like, you have another couple of months, and we decided, no, we're going to get the project in. And those dollars have continued to flow to us as the reimbursement grant. So nothing, we haven't seen anything recently.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Can I move on to November? Okay.
Yes, please.
Excellent. All right. This should be November pass through. Can folks see that okay? Great. Again, there's a number of pass-through, a lot of things happening at the end of the calendar year for communities. That's why you're seeing a number of these pass-through grants. And there are also some small dollar things you'll see around translation, or, space planning, but pretty standard pass-through contracts here. And again, glad to answer any questions.
I'll just ask briefly. So just to remind me, and I know the answer to this, but this shows up as revenue on our big sheet, but it's passed through. So then that's non-staff project costs or whatever the phrase is, right? But it shows up on the big line of revenue. This all comes in as revenue.
That is correct, Sam. It's both, like, we show it both as a revenue and we also show it as a direct expense. So it cancels itself out, but it does show as part of the revenue
Mm.
and part of the expenses, one
Okay.
for one.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Trying to scroll slowly.
No, I like your $132. I think
Yes.
that wins the prize.
For ASL, yeah, interpretation.
Yeah.
I know, everything gets accounted the same way, whether it's big or small.
Or little. Yeah, exactly. It kind of dilutes it a little bit, but can I show the revenue contracts for November? Excellent. All right. These are the revenue contracts for November. Some things to note, we did get the money from ANF. This was, if folks remember, in the previous 2 fiscal years, we received money that we called GAP funding, where the administration gave us dollars alongside DLTA to support cities and towns in applying for state and federal grants. This year, that program, the DLTA-A program, it was Augmentation Funds, DLTA-A, ended. And instead, all the RPAs got funding through ANF, which had been given money to help cities and towns apply for mostly federal grants. And so they created this new program called TARPA, and that's where you see that $431,000 of revenue that came in. The other big one here, obviously, is this very large grant from the congestion relief grant. So these dollars actually came from USDOT to MassDOT. They should actually probably be listed here, Anna, as federal. We should make sure that they're coded as federal, that very last one.
Yep.
And a significant portion of those funds are pass-through dollars, which will go to cities and towns mostly to help advance the Blue Bikes program, some funding for transportation management associations, with a portion of the dollars staying here at a good, healthy portion of dollars staying here at MAPC. But yeah, I would say that would be the one amendment on this. I'm sorry, Anne, I didn't notice it until now, but it should probably be just as long as on our end it's coded as federal, that last one, because it is a big federal grant.
Yeah, now I'll take note of that. Sometimes when it's coming, through the state, sometimes it's not clear.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what happened, because the check came from
Mhm.
USDOT to MassDOT to us because they had to be the recipient.
Right.
But for our purposes, it's federal dollars.
So
Any questions?
yeah, no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm glad to answer any questions about that.
So on the TARPA money, that's state money, and what's the work product that you show the state?
Yeah, they do have, it's funny, I think it's interesting because we actually got more funds on DLTA-A, but our sort of like reporting requirements were alongside the DLTA reporting requirements. They were quarterly. So it's similar reporting requirements. It's just annually for TARPA as opposed to quarterly. I think we'll keep quarterly records just because it's easier, but basically we'll be showing them how we used our time to help cities and towns apply for federal discretionary grants. There are some instances where we could use dollars to support matching funds for federal applications. And also thinking about places where we might need to support communities who would have otherwise seen federal dollars and are losing those now. And then there's a role for us in terms of planning or supporting them.
Because $500,000 is not a small amount of money. I mean, that's a good
It's
chunk.
both not a small amount of money, and it is because I say, like, for most of the federal discretionary grants that communities would apply for, it has a fairly high match requirement.
Right.
And so it's just so the dollars could go really quickly. Like if we were we had talked about like maybe we would use some of these dollars to try to backfill some of the BRIC grants that were revoked to cities and towns, but it would like barely make a dent in trying to address some of those dollars. So it's like yes, it can be a significant amount of money, but it also, depending on what project communities would be looking at, it could go quickly.
But it's flexible money. It's not just staff time consulting with cities and towns. It could be,
Yeah, it's a little less flexible than DLTAA was. It has like a little bit more of that nexus on the federal application side because these dollars the DLTAA dollars ultimately were in the budget, and the contract that we were working on with DHCD had like a lot of flexibility baked in. This contract is with ANF, and the dollars came through statute with like a $12 million appropriation to ANF to do this federal work. And there's just so much less federal money right now that it's just a little different.
interesting.
So
Okay.
we'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
Yeah. No,
And I've been in very close contact with all of the other RPAs about how we're hoping to spend this money. The RPAs are also talking about like kind of coming together to use some of the dollars in a shared capacity to help backfill places where we know federal dollars are not going to be invested. So it's not necessarily a place where money has been taken away, but for example, on like emergency preparedness planning, we know that they're not going to be investing in MEMA, but maybe the RPAs could actually serve some of that purpose for our cities and towns. And ANF has been open to having those discussions, though no decision has been made yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Anything else, or can I stop sharing?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you, Lizzie. So much for that. Remind me, do we approve revenue and pass-through contracts? I'm having a Monday moment right now.
I feel like
No,
we,
right?
but yeah, I think it's just,
Really not.
Typically, no, right, Anna?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yes,
it's just
okay.
for informational purposes, no voting on that.
okay, great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. All right, next up on the agenda is council norms in zero tolerance policy draft.
I'm
Lizzie?
gonna text Emma because I don't see them here.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's
And
okay.
after
will
you
do.
text, what, Patrice?
Oh, I said, will do. I'll text Emma.
Okay, great. So while you both text them, maybe we could bounce to hiring and staff changes until
Sure.
they get here. Great.
Excellent. Glad to do that. So on hiring and staff changes, right now we only have one open position, which is exciting. So we have the senior full stack developer position, which is still open, although we have started doing interviews for that. And then we have started doing interviews for the DEI HR position. Good morning, Emma. We just switched the agenda, so we'll come to you in just one more minute. And so that is underway for finalist interviews for that new HR position, which I'm really excited about. We will soon be posting a position for the housing team. Alexis Smith, who is one of our senior housing planners, left to actually go over to the T as an architect. She's making kind of a career like switch back to the early part of her career. So she left about a month ago, and we decided to wait until after the holidays to post. So we'll be posting that within the next couple of weeks. Um, and those are essentially the open positions right now. I am pleased to report that Andrea did sign a contract, and so will be staying on with us. And we will be announcing that change and some of the changes we discussed previously to staff later this month, around the end of January. And that, I think, is the full update.
Amazing. Questions, comments on that? Great. Okay, we're going back to go forward here. Next up on the agenda is council norms and zero tolerance policy draft. Emma, thank you for joining us.
I'm going to kick this off a little bit and then turn it to Emma. I also want to echo Erin's thanks, Emma, for joining us this morning. So this conversation today and this agenda item came out of conversations that Emma and I have been having about how we make sure that our council table and honestly some of the other tables that we have at MAPC, Erin mentioned the sub-regional tables, but all the places where MAPC staff are, but also people that are affiliated with the agency in some capacity, like our council members, and then even the public, how we actually create that space in a way that is like purposefully welcoming and inclusive, and make sure that people feel like it is a safe place, but also that if something happens or somebody does or says something that is hateful or racist or inappropriate, that we actually have a path forward for people to know what to do when that situation ensues. I think you all know Emma. They are our council engagement specialist extraordinaire. And Emma came to me asking that we bring this to this table with the plan to actually introduce it as something at the council meeting. I don't think it'll need a long agenda item. We'll put it out there, ideally with your permission, for folks to kind of understand how we're hoping to conduct this space in the room. So with that, I'd love to turn it over to Emma, and they can walk through the document and answer any questions.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me pull it up. Can everyone see that? Okay, awesome. Yeah, so as Lizzie said, this document came out of the desire to complement the efforts that we're doing to bring a lot more folks who have been historically underrepresented into council spaces, and lay the foundation for creating a space that is welcoming and inclusive and equitable for everyone. And so really curious to hear y'all's thoughts, insights, and also how best to roll this out to the general council. So starting at the top, the overview is just stating what the document is, but the context section is specifically trying to ground this document in Metro Common and our strategic plan, showing how creating these sorts of spaces and convenings are aligned with our vision for the region. The other thing I want to highlight from this section is the recognition that we are not always going to get it right, but we're committed to learning, repairing harm when it occurs, and continually learning together. These convenings and creating spaces that are inclusive and equitable is an iterative process and requires constant adaptation to the folks that are in the room. And so it's important that we acknowledge that's going to involve us getting it wrong and taking accountability and learning from that process. The norms that are outlined in the document are pulled from various other convenings spaces that MAPC has. Some of them are pulled from community engagement, some of them are pulled from subregions, and some of them are pulled off the poster in the third floor conference room. And we're really designed to, or we're we picked the ones that we felt were the best fit for the council and also most accessible to the folks who are in that space. So there's welcome one another and support one another. Everyone here is here to learn. Everyone brings expertise. Listen for understanding, not disagreement. Speak from your own experience. Make I statements. Step up, step back. Take turns speaking. Make room for others to speak. Use plain language that's easy to understand and free from acronyms. And take care of yourself and meet your needs. And the point of this is to share that while we as MAPC will do our best to create that space, it is ultimately the responsibility of everyone in the room to create that space that is welcoming to everyone. And then we have the zero tolerance policy, which is designed to specifically address specific instances of harm. It is not designed to be the end all be all. There are many instances of harm in which a zero tolerance policy is not the appropriate tool to address them. That's why we have the norms. And this is designed to address specifically violence, harassment, discrimination, threats, physical attacks, property damages. These are the instances in which we would be applying this policy. And we also have in there the ask that, like, if people notice or see these instances, that they either come to MAPC staff members to let us know, or they are coming to the council president. So that's an overview of the document. I will pause for any thoughts, feedback, anything that was sparked from either reading it or what I've said.
Do you want to stop sharing, Emma?
Yeah.
Please. Okay, great. Just so I can see everyone. Great. So let's start with questions first. Any questions? Okay. How about?
Sure, I have one actually.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Lizzie, something you mentioned at the start of it is like, what is the action that's taken if someone is, engaging in one of those behaviors? What is the responsibility in that meeting? Like, I mean, this might particularly fall to Erin, who's running it. Like, what is she and us as officers expected to do?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. Honestly, Ima, I'm interested in your thoughts on it. I think some of it depends on what is the specifics of what happened in the what are happening in the situation. If it's something that we can sort of shut down from the podium versus something that would require extra support. I don't want anyone on staff or honestly on the counselor officers to like put themselves in harm's way. Part of the reason I feel like we have a lot of our events in town spaces is because we do often get some additional like support and security from the town when that happens, if there's something that's actually harmful. But I am interested, and we could, and Emma and I actually like talked a little bit about this before this iteration of the document, if there's like other pieces that you wanted us to include here in terms of those responsibilities. So I'm interested in I'm not trying to just like put it back to you, but I am interested in that.
No, that's fair. To have a discussion about it is absolutely, kind of what we're here for. I mean, I think it would help, and understanding that we still have to kind of hash out these specifics maybe, but I think it would help in the policy document to say, like, if anyone is, if racist comments occur, you get like a warning from the president or from the floor. And, if it continues to occur, you may be asked to leave, and, just so it's, whoever is disruptive has kind of maybe less grounds to say, well, why is this happening? Why am I being singled out? Is this action appropriate? It's spelled out at the beginning that these are the actions that will be taken to enforce this.
Yeah, I'd be open to adding something like that in. I feel like, candidly, one of the things about this document that I think is important, and it's the reason why we sort of flipped it to lead with the norms, is because it is my hope that by putting that out there as sort of this is our standard of conduct, that there's some, element of collegiality and common sense that accompanies leading with the norms. And so my my preference would be that we kind of separately have a document that we all understand for what happens when if there is some kind of disruption. But I also understand the idea that we should consider sharing that at some point with council members. And I think going forward, assuming this is adopted, we would incorporate it into our orientation with council members so that at least there's something at the very beginning of their time with us that they sort of understand this is how we think this relationship works. So I think we could include something like that there, but I feel like we might want to then pull out a separate set of what happens next.
Okay.
I think that's personally, I think that's appropriate. I feel like this document's like our expectation document, like this is what we expect of behavior, and then consequence of that, because it's very different, right? Like discriminatory language sometimes is being used unintentionally. And maybe that should be approached differently. I also think sometimes people need to be approached based on what's happening, and it's very like on a case by case basis. But I do think it's probably important, particularly for the officers, to have, you know, a shared expectation of that, and maybe executive committee could have a shared expectation of that. But obviously, like, I think it's important to whoever's running the meeting to have full control of that, and then support of whoever else is in the meeting of those shared expectations. But like, if there's violence, for instance, like there's no warning. Like if you throw a chair at me, there's no warning. I mean, we laugh, but those of us who work in the public sector, like we have
It all
dealt with threats, whether it's physical or verbal, previously. And that's unfortunately the reality of things. But anyway, Sam, I think you came off mute next, and then Jen.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm completely supportive of this, and you know, keep it up. I to me, it's sort of a broader, and even almost a broader thing of we have. Sorry for going off on this, but you know, over the last few years, we've trained ourselves to be uncivil. We found ways to really go after each other in the worst ways. And it's only getting sort of hypercharged by all our gadgets and gizmos. So this could, I would even, and you don't have to adopt this as your MAPC statement, but this could be we've got to find a way to deal with each other in more humane ways, if not human or humane ways. And this is MAPC's attempt to get at some of that. And I think that would if that were communicated to an audience of people, I think that would get some nods of approval broadly. That being said, and I'm not a lawyer, but you are, you know, the boundaries of free speech are pretty wide. And part of the point of bringing people together is to surface differences and to surface disagreements. And there has to be a certain amount of latitude for that. And that can get messy and unpleasant. And I think that has to be understood as, which we all do as part of the process. That being said, obviously there are some just red lines, like, you know, some behavior is just not acceptable anywhere, anytime. So the only other thought that I have, and those are all just general comments, the only other thought I have is, and it comes up a lot on all of the chitter chat today and on our national stuff, is and we're all planners, so in some ways we are trained in this, but not necessarily, of de-escalation. You know, how do you take the temperature down? How do you release some of the pressure in the room? And there are unquestionably some learnable skills in how do you deal with that very difficult person who is getting more and more belligerent, and you're worried that this might go in a bad direction.
Yeah.
And that may be part of training, of staff training. You know, what are some, and maybe you do this already, but what are some skills that you can apply in the moment at the time when you all of a sudden feel this is now becoming a threatening situation and we have to, something has to happen here to get it
Yep.
to a lower temperature. Those are my only comments, but I fully support I fully support this. I mean, and however broad you want to go with why we're doing this, I support that too. I mean, I do think that there's a part of this. It occurred to me that we can no longer look back at how we used to behave towards each other, and we have to look forward and say we have to invent this 21st century version of we're all here, we all come from different backgrounds, we all believe different things, we all learn different things, but we have to be able to communicate that, right? That's democracy. That's the small d democracy. So, yeah, I just say in all your different efforts, just keep it up. Let's keep.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate that. Erin, if I may, just like a few
Yeah.
response. I think, Sam, I think your suggestion to add just like a little bit more into the front matter, like the case for in the memo, is a good idea. I can tell you, I think you all know I'm doing this like listening tour with our cities and towns, and I would say 201, every single mayor or manager I have spoken to has uttered some version of you don't know how hard it is at the local level. To me, the discourse is really difficult. And I do actually think you're right that there's a utility in saying this is how MAPC is trying to address this. And maybe actually even there's some support we could offer to cities and towns because we're taking a step to do this. So I think that's a valuable suggestion, and Emma and I can work to incorporate that language. On the de-escalation piece, so I think you all know we set aside dollars this year to start specific training at MAPC. This is kind of focused on addressing it's some people call it bystander, some people call it de-escalation. Those are two different things. We're focusing more on the de-escalation side. But also there are some elements of de-escalation that are about being a good ally and bystander, particularly if, you're in a meeting with a staff member of color and they just are naturally in a different situation and posture than you. And so we are doing some of that work. We also, kind of behind the scenes, there are some folks at MAPC that are already highly skilled and trained in this area. Sasha Parodi is one of them. Emma is expanding their training in this space. Javier also has done a lot of de-escalation work, and Barry. And so that's why you almost always see them at our council meetings. I would be glad to, if you are interested in kind of participating or even just seeing the materials that we haven't kicked off the de-escalation training yet, but we just put an RFP out. But if you as our officers are interested in seeing those materials or participating, we're going to be doing it on a rolling basis. Just let me know and I can incorporate you into that as well.
I personally would enjoy that. And if you're doing role playing, I could be the unruly person in that. And see how quickly you get me thrown down on the ground face down. No,
nothing phases. I will say Javier is a bit of a wizard in this space and nothing phases him. You can throw anything at him and he comes back with calm. It's kind of amazing.
I have seen him at work. It's pretty incredible.
It's pretty incredible.
Jen?
Thanks, Erin. Emma, first, I just want to say thank you for putting this forward. I think it's great. I do want to echo just some concerns around, or not concerns, but I hate to say that maybe we should have more. It's the First Amendment rights that Lizzie, I definitely echo. It's very difficult at the local level, and I hear it's my First Amendment right more often than truthfully in this space. I'd like to hear. We recognize that, but I just want to make sure that our, whether it's the officers or the council or staff and outside of the escalation, that our responses are appropriate. And nobody can come back and say you're violating my First Amendment rights. However, one of the things that maybe could be considered is a statement at the beginning of public meetings or council meetings. I know the MMA, we're going to hear a lot about the annual conference, the Dignity Pledge, and work that Tim Shriver and Unite are doing. I know we actually did adopt it here in Hull. It doesn't need to be the Dignity Pledge. It could be some version that summarizes or echoes what's in the policy that's been put before us this morning, just to remind people at the onset of a meeting that there is zero tolerance and these are our values and that we are an inclusive and equitable organization. And we have that expectation as well.
Yep.
The only other comment I would have is also maybe just changing or altering or editing a little bit the sort of, maybe we don't call it a zero tolerance policy, but something a little more almost welcoming, if that makes sense. I did find, and again, I think it's great, I agree with everything in it, but sometimes reading it or making people aware of it, somebody that might be more prone to be an individual that this might come into play, is not putting them on the defensive right away. So it sounds a bit as if we expect this type of behavior in meetings. So changing language, like it says repairing harm when it occurs. How about repairing harm if it occurs or should it occur? Things just softening it a little bit. In the policy, in the second paragraph too, the statements we're committed to creating spaces that are welcoming, inclusive, equitable for everyone who lives and works in the region. Maybe just adding in, visitors to the region too, or something along those lines, just broadening the groups, the target groups. Sorry, that was a bit of a ramble. There's noise going on.
No,
I'm not quite sure what it is.
It's great. I appreciate that. And Emma and I definitely went back and forth on that piece. I think I also tend to lead with the let's do the expectation setting. I think the other piece that we're trying to strike, and I'm interested in your thoughts on this as well, is, we are working really hard to diversify the council room itself. And so part of the message we're also sending is to some of our newer council members who represent that diversity a little more deeply. And so I think I wouldn't want to soften the language too much that it feels like we're not actually in that support space with those new council members. So I think there's a trade-off there, but I think we can take a look at some of that and see if there's some places where we can amend the language. Emma, I don't know if there was anything else you wanted to add there, not to put you too much on the spot.
The thing that's challenging from what I was reading about zero tolerance policies is the need to be very specific about what there is zero tolerance for, because this document does not explicitly address basically everything that there isn't a zero tolerance for, but there would need to be some sort of repair or accountability. And so being able to, I'm curious about people's thoughts on if there is a need to soften the language for the things that there is a zero tolerance for versus if there's a need to clarify more or soften the language around zero tolerance, if there's a need to clarify more deeply, what is zero tolerance versus what is where there's needs to be learning and repair.
I mean, I'll just say, I don't think there's a need to, and I definitely don't think we should soften the language around what there's zero tolerance for. It's just sort of the overall tone or approach to it as people, as we present it to the council or members or the agency does. But it's not about what there's zero tolerance for. I don't think that at all should be, definitely should be clear.
Okay. I think we can work on some of on that balance piece.
Yeah, I mean, for lack of another way to, this is too general, but it's fundamentally about respect. It's not, disagreements can be very healthy and very positive moments, but there has to be a fundamental respect for the people in the process, and that extends in every direction from every person to every other person, whether you're leading the meeting or you're participating in the meeting. But I was thinking a little bit, if you take me and my gray beard and where I am in life, I might feel very similarly to a 25-year-old MAPC staff member, but I would almost certainly describe it in slightly different language and different verbiage. And even that could lead to moments of conflict, I could imagine. So just to be aware that, I think I'm just trying to, get at Jen's point a little bit of just being aware that people hear things differently and to, that can get too mushy pretty quickly, but just to be mindful, or just to bear that in mind, I guess. That's all.
Yeah, I think not to belabor the point, I think that's a good way to say it, Sam, is that different people hear different things differently.
I think that's true. I think, when we're talking specifically about hate speech or racist speech or language that is meant to incite, that in and of itself, that I think we generally hear similarly, and it's the reason why over and over again municipal leaders are telling me it's so hard at the local level, right? Like that is a similar thing. And I feel like that's the piece we need to be clear about. And I feel like Margie looked at an earlier version of this, or we talked about it with Margie at some point. I don't know if she has seen this version, but certainly before we actually start introducing it, we'll make sure she takes a look at it to talk about those pieces. And I should also say, I would also like to bring this to XCOM before just so that we have a vote there as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important that when we bring it to council, we say, that it's endorsed, hopefully unanimously, voted unanimously, in support of the executive committee and also this body as well. Is the thought that it would go in front of council in March?
Yeah, and that meeting will be an online meeting, which might actually be an easier way to talk about this. So yes.
Okay. So perhaps Emma and Lizzie and Margie and all those involved could kind of take some of the comments that you heard today and maybe, either send it via email to us again, and then we can take a vote at our February officers meeting, which is like right around the corner since we're meeting a little later this month. But then the February XCOM meeting, we will take a vote of endorsement to then bring to the March council meeting. How does that sound to everyone?
That sounds
That would
good.
be great from our timing too. Thanks. That's why we wanted to bring this to this meeting.
No, it's great. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I feel like I want to double down on my earliest thought, which is that this is part of Metro Common. This is part of urban planning today, is figuring out a language and a way to be in rooms together where we don't just want to kill each other, which the internet seems to be pointing us towards. So I think it should be adopted as part of what Metro Common is all about.
I think that's a great point, Sam. I think we can definitely relate back to that. And Metro Common includes the values of the agency, but also the values of the region. And that was fully adopted by our council. So glad to add that in.
And I do think it's an opportunity for municipalities to also, have a conversation locally and also maybe adopt something similar that works for them locally before their meetings and how they conduct business as well. So, I think hopefully it could be inspiring for other municipalities as well. Great.
It seems
I think it'd be good. Great. Any other questions or comments? We'll talk about this again in February officers meeting. But maybe we could get the draft ahead of time, and then if there are any comments beforehand that could use a little more zhuzhing, we could do that separately.
Yep. Glad
individually, of course, to follow open
Yes.
meeting law. but perhaps, Emma or Lizzie could send other further draft language based on these discussions out, and then we could individually reply if there's any other tweaks or suggestions to be made, and then we can talk about those at
That'd
the
be great.
meeting.
That
Awesome.
sounds great. Thanks. Yeah. Emma and I are pretty quick, so we'll probably turn in draft around.
The quickest. Yeah, the quickest. Emma, I really appreciate your work on this and all your efforts on this. I think it's really important, and I'm glad that we're going to be adopting this. So thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming to our officers meeting. Really appreciate it. Okay, great. All right. She's like, they're like, I'm out of here.
I'm out. I did what I needed to do. I'm out.
Yeah. Got my orders. All right, great. All right, next up on the agenda, other business not known at the time of posting this agenda.
The only thing is that I am going to be traveling in February for the NARC meeting, and I'm hoping we could either do our meeting virtually that morning in February, or we can look for a new date so that we can do it in person, which there are good reasons to do that if we want to try to move it.
But when you say good reasons, do you mean there is reasons to meet in person opposed to virtually, or?
Yeah, if there are additional discussions that are just easier in person, we can do that.
Okay.
And if folks would want me to move the meeting, I can do that.
Either one is fine with me, honestly.
Me too.
Me too.
All right, great. So why don't we do this? Why don't we, Lizzie, do you think it would be best if we maintained that February 2nd meeting?
Sure.
Virtually to start at 9 o'clock?
Yep.
And then if something comes up that you feel in your discretion would warrant a better in-person meeting, how does everyone look on Monday, February 9th, the week after, to meet in person?
All good.
Yeah, that's fine. Can I toss this out also? Lizzie, if you're I don't know if the conference starts, then I know sometimes it's hard to be two places at one time. Would it be helpful if everyone's available to just move the February meeting to the 9th? Whether it's virtual or in person.
It's totally up to you. I think the only other challenge on the 9th is that I think I would only have an hour for that from 9 to 10 because we have a staff training that starts in that space in the 3rd floor conference room at 10. But that would probably be fine. But I can do it virtually. I've been to this conference a number of times. It's like the DC, the NARC DC meeting where I'll have meetings with members of our federal delegation, but they do not meet at 9 o'clock in the morning. And so it would be just as easy for me to do a virtual meeting from my hotel room that morning. But again, up to you.
Okay. Let's just keep it on the 2nd, but let's make it 9 a.m. on the calendar. It says 9:30. Let's make it virtual. And then I think we could still do a pretty brief meeting. We've been pretty expeditious with our decisions and our updates and efficiency.
I agree.
All right, great. All right, so Patrice, if you could just update the Outlook calendar to reflect a 9 o'clock start time, virtual on the 2nd, I'd appreciate it. Anything? Great, thank you. Anything else, Lizzie?
No, nothing else.
Amazing. All right, so with that, I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Jen. Second made by Imai for motion made by Jen. Please come off mute. Roll call required. All right, here we go. Sam.
Aye.
Imai.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
And Erin. Aye. Great. And with that, the meeting is adjourned at 10:03 a.m. Thank you all.